Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about an interesting piece of news that sort of floated by last week and didn't get quite the attention that I think maybe it deserves. I think this could be major for Tekken and its community because we now officially have a community manager or social marketing and community manager for competitive titles such as Dragon Ball, Tekken, and Soul Calibur. And this is really interesting. It's not typically the kind of thing I like to talk about in my content, real people, stuff happening on social media. I am much more interested in, and I have much more fun when I'm coming up with a good shit post, but I have sometimes in the past felt almost compelled to talk about Tekken's marketing and its community management because it has at times felt downright sinister, and I feel like the tone towards the community has been condescending at times, and I don't like that sort of thing. Hopefully this is a big positive step in the right direction. Hopefully it means that we will have more of a healthy back and forth in the future. We've had no information on Tekken for over a year now, and it kind of reinforces this vibe that Bandai Namco are only interested in talking to us and pretending to be our friends when they have something new that they want to sell us, but then they kind of turn into smoke and float into the ether, and we are left on the outside wondering what is going on. Another reason this announcement has me very excited is that in the gaming industry, this type of hire typically happens before new major projects, right? So Soul Calibur, as far as I know, is pretty much dead at this point. Who knows? Maybe we will have new major Soul Calibur games in the future. I don't think so, but it would be amazing. I love Soul Calibur. Not sure what is going on with Dragon Ball, but with Tekken, I think this is another really strong indication that the announcement of Tekken 8 is about to happen. That's going to be a huge explosion on social media. And it's a very good idea to have somebody dedicated working on answering questions and managing the expectations of the community, especially when that's been such a huge weak point for Namco in the past. So for those two reasons, I think this is a great thing and I'm super happy about it, but I definitely have my concerns as well. Not about the person they picked specifically, of course. I've done a little bit of digging on Romanova, and it seems to be a really cool person and a good pick, so that's super positive, and hopefully it works out fine. My concerns are sort of, I guess we'll get into it. The thing about community management in a game like Tekken is that I don't think Tekken players are in much need of management per se. I think the average player is like 30 years old, right? It's more like people have had these concerns about the way the game is being developed and marketed, the direction that it is heading in, and then when people try and voice those concerns and they are downright critical of the direction the game is going in, then the reply, the tone has been strange, vague, and not very useful. So I think one of the best examples is when people try and find out what is actually going on with rollback netcode in Tekken. We get these weaving, almost political speech style apologies. Tekken is 3 and so on. And then we're told that the community and many people out there don't understand what rollback netcode really is. And that's a very dangerous game to play as a developer because, fair enough, I'm not an expert on rollback netcode, but I talked to plenty of people who create it for a living, and I've listened to the people who pretty much invented it in the first place. When you have a community of millions of people all over the world, there are very few things that you understand that they don't. And you also obviously have a player base where people are extremely good at the game. I think transparently much better at playing it than the people who actually make it, which means that they have access to a level of information and understanding that you don't. And for those reasons, it's very important to listen to your community and take their opinions into account, right? And that, sometimes they are unfair and they say strange things and they are being aggressive on social media, fair enough, but I don't think that's the norm. Definitely not when it comes to the Tekken community. I get to speak to them a lot in a big way, and it's been almost nothing but a privilege and a pleasure so far. So with the game and the way it's been managed in the past, I mean, People didn't like the idea of charging for frame data, for example. That's a typical, like, kind of strange marketing decision. For me personally, the big one has been the balancing of DLC and the rolling out of DLC, right? I'm pretty sure that the last 4 characters introduced into the game were made way, way, way too strong on purpose to boost the sales of those DLC characters, right? And so that is kind of sacrificing the competitive integrity on the game on the altar of making a bit more money on this project that you are kind of sort of done with, so that you can move on to the next Tekken game and start selling that instead. And it feels very, very cynical. And cynics in the community will say, well, that's the sort of thing that you have to do in this industry now, and it's what everybody is doing. I personally don't think that that's an excuse, and again, I don't really like it, so it's something that I've been very critical of. But when we talk about this and we want to know, are you doing it on purpose? Is there a reason? Do you want to change it in the future? We get very vague replies or no information at all, and that is why we might need somebody working with this as a dedicated area of responsibility. Now, something that I wanted to get to here is that one of the things that has me a little bit worried is that I don't think that Romanova will be working with making actual major decisions about the direction of the game. I don't think she will be working in Japan. I'm pretty sure that she's hired by Bandai Namco US. And I mean, take it from me, I worked in Japan for many, many years in many companies, and the view on foreigners and women in the workplace and in business for an industrialized country is almost below any criticism that I can give in that country. It's not a progressive place. Something funny that happened last year is, somebody in the government said, maybe we should stop using fax machines to send information back and forth. And everybody just panicked and vetoed that down because they don't want to be progressive in almost any area, right? So in other words, I would just be very surprised if Romanova is going to have any actual influence over the game. She's going to be managing, I think, for the most part, not even marketing, because marketing is stuff like the price of things, how you sell them, when you sell them, promotion as well, but much more than that. I think it's going to be more a role focused around social media. But just imagine that situation for a little bit. If Namco continue to make these poor and strange decisions when it comes to the development and the marketing of the game, and then we have this person who's going to have to try and defend that and become a focal point for the frustrations of the community, it's kind of a thankless job. It's kind of a job that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy in some ways. And hopefully that's not the situation we end up in. Trust me, if she's working for a Japanese company, she will never for a second be allowed to express opinions that could reflect badly on the company. She can't even go, yeah, I know guys, it's pretty shitty. That's just not going to happen. So imagine that your job is somebody far away makes decisions that you might not agree with, but you have to defend them to millions of people, and then sometimes those millions of people will get angry and they will attack you specifically and maybe make jokes about you specifically when they are frustrated. That is something that I hope doesn't happen. I hope this works out, and I hope we embrace our new community manager and we see this for what it is. I think it's an opportunity to get an actual window into the world of Tekken's development. And I think we want this person to any extent we can have on our side. So Romanova, like I said, I looked into her a little bit. It's a gamer tag. Obviously, I think her real name is Amanda Rose or something. I like the fact that there is a gamer tag, because one thing I've been thinking for a while is that what we really want on Tekken is people who are good at playing fighting games and really like to play these fighting games, working on developing them. And something I haven't talked to you guys about is that I actually had a match against Mishima Star, who's head of balancing at Namco a couple of months ago. I don't have the footage of those matches anymore, but it happened like 2 months before I left Japan, and I'm pretty sure it was actually him. He was called Mishima Star, and he had a trademark symbol next to his name, and he was playing Mishimas. His Kazuya, I think, was like Raijin or Yakuza. It wasn't a hyper advanced match. We played a couple of games. I think I won most of them, but it had me thinking about how you really want people who care about playing the games at a reasonable level, working on them. Otherwise, how are you going to be able to understand why the community feels a certain way, right? You need people who really care about playing Tekken, and then they go and play Tekken and they're trying to have a good online game. The netcode is iffy. They try and change their music so they tab out, and the game has a catastrophic crash. So you boot the game back up, you come in, the game tells you that it is penalizing you and taking away points because you disconnected, which you didn't do. And by the way, the person you were playing against is probably going to think that you rage quit or something in the middle of the match, which is going to frustrate you even more. So it takes time to get back into the game, and then 30 minutes later the exact same thing happens all over again. And again, it's something that you really care about. You want to play this game well. You care about winning matches. If you've been in that situation repeatedly, I think you will take this issue of solving that much, much more seriously. If you run into cheaters and you see firsthand how playing against them just feels pointless and how it deflates your excitement about the ranking journey and stuff like that, then you really, I think, in a serious way can start working on and really taking seriously the issue of solving those problems, right? So I think it's very, very good that Romanova is a real fighting game player. I've seen her play Mortal Kombat. I don't know much about Mortal Kombat, but she seemed to be pretty good at that. I've seen her play Guilty Gear, which I know a little bit more about because I played that game a bit. Played Melia Rage, who is a pretty advanced character in that game, which is cool as well. I haven't seen any footage of Romanova playing Tekken. I don't know if she does, but hopefully she does love Tekken and she's really into this game as well. But I think it would be very, very useful to have more people on this project who really do love, you know, not the world of the game and not the culture of the game, but also playing the game. And this thing of trying to be as good at it as possible, right? It's not a good look for the balancing team, by the way, to have a Mishima main called Mishima Star who mains Devil Jin as head of balancing in a game where all of a sudden we get these defining buffs to the recovery of electrics that nobody's asked for, when Devil Jin is probably the most overpowered base roster character in the game, you know. Begs the question, if we had a head of balancing called Giga Star, would Gigas have an actual throw mix-up? Who knows? When the eventual announcement for Tekken 8 comes, the first thing, I mean, there's going to be like a teaser with a face and a title and something very vague, but when we actually get a trailer with information about features, real rollback netcode needs to be the first thing, one of the first things they show. No apologies or strange explanations, actual rollback netcode the way other fighting games have, stable and strong online. And then after the release, when things like, you know, DLC and stuff like that starts happening, healthy actual balance would be top of the list for me. We need it to be that way, because if it keeps going the way it has for the last couple of years, then I honestly feel sorry for the person who has to become the focal point of the frustrations of the community, because it's not a comfortable sandwich to be in. People who make decisions you can't influence, giving you orders, and then people criticizing you for choices that you didn't personally make, right? So hopefully, like I said, we embrace our new community manager and this goes really well. And I think it might. I hope the video didn't sound too negative, but it's kind of like, you know, the tangent that we're on with the game seems to indicate it. But this could be like where it turns around. When Leroy came out, the view of Tekken globally sort of changed, and the view of Tekken's development changed, and everything got darker, and it's been getting darker since. Maybe this is the point where we start to climb back up and things get a little bit more healthy and a lot more exciting. I really hope that's what happens, and I can't wait for that Tekken 8 announcement. I hope you enjoy this video. Please give me your own opinions on what is going on in the comments, and I'll see you guys again very soon.